Derek Cummings is back again from South Wales. It's March, it still feels like winter. We've gone through it, and like many of us, I've had quite a few exacerbations. I've had a lot of bronchitis, which has caused a lot of problems, and it's just a progression of the COPD that I've got. I've had it since 1987, wow, long time now. Nearly half my life I've had COPD. 33 years now, something like that. That's a long time. A lot of you won't reach that. A lot of you will only go mild, moderate, or may just get into the severe, and some of you will get into the very severe. Most of us actually do pass away as something other than COPD, which is good news, but of course we do have to survive this crippling condition, this crippling progressive lung disease. So how do we handle it? Now I want to get back onto my favourite subject, exercise, and I want to talk about why exercise. Now during this winter, when I've had bronchitis, I've had some very bad spells. I've had spells where just going from my bed at night to the bathroom, or the toilet we call it here in the UK, I've been very out of breath just going to the toilet, and I've had to sit down and recover for a minute or two, and once or twice longer, and this isn't very nice. Luckily I don't panic. Some people panic and they take little pills to help them not to panic, but the main thing is you've still got to move, you've still got to exercise. Now when you get like that, the easy thing is to just sit back and say, well, I won't move, you know, get a pea pot or something and just, you know, put your leg over in the bed and have your pee or whatever, but quite honestly, that is not what you should do. You should be moving. You should be coughing. Now, why? Now, the reason is that the lungs, no matter how bad or how good they are, they need a workout. And the only way you're going to get them to give a workout is to move. Get your breathing fast. Now, this is where we've got an exercise. Now, exercise means different things to different people. If you're a top athlete, exercise might be a 26-mile London Marathon or something like that. Exercise to someone with moderate COPD might be going for a couple of mile walk with a dog or something like that. Exercise for someone with severe COPD might be a little bit less than that. They might just be able to do a mile or somewhere very slowly. And someone with very, very severe COPD like I have, exercise really is nothing much at all. But exercise is anything that gets you actually out of breath. And it can be very little when you get to my stage, especially if you've got bronchitis. Now, when you start breathing hard, what's actually happening is it's moving the mucus in your lungs, and it's moving it upwards, and you're coughing it out. And the more you do it, the better. And if you use the breathing technique, then you will find that also moves it as well. So, you know, you must move. Now, I've known people that have not moved. I had one guy say to me he didn't want to move. He was a bit like me. He got very out of breath. He used to panic a lot, and he decided the easiest thing was to do nothing. And he did nothing. And what happened is the phlegm and everything builds up and builds up in the chest. It didn't move. Eventually he got an infection, and unfortunately the infection killed my friend. He was a very sad loss, but it does happen, and I want you to be aware that you must move no matter how hard it is. Now, as I say, exercise is different for everyone. Now, avoid too much bed. More people die in bed than what you realise. Most people actually die in bed, so you don't want to be in bed, because you don't want to die. Get out of bed. Get out of bed in the morning, and even if you can only move very little, get out of bed. Even if you're sitting up, that's helping the lungs. It's better than laying down as well. I'm looking at my notes here to remind me to talk in my normal relaxed way. But another thing to do in this day and age, and I've fallen into this trap, is try to avoid using your iPads or your computers or your smartphones too much. It's very easy to sit there, you know, and you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter or you're on something else, and just while away 2, 3, 4 hours just doing nothing. And at the end of the day, you're you're stiff as can be, your breathing's not so good, and things seem to be a little bit harder if you're in a severe range like I am, and that is the reason, is that you spent a little bit too much time on your computer and everything else. I also want to talk about, let's talk about my life as very severe. Now I've had half my life, or nearly half my life with COPD, and if you're unfortunate enough to get to the very bad stages, you will find, like me, you use oxygen, and you may find that you start to get out of breath when you're dressing or when you're showering. And what does help with that is pursed lip breathing. Now, pursed lip breathing, I have talked about this before. It's quite easy to do, breathe into two. And when you blow out like you're calling some food, like you've got a tray of cold food, and you, like that. Essentially, because you don't do that walking along the street. So try and make a habit of that. So you, and I'm finding I'm beginning to get into the habit of doing that now, especially when I'm walking around. It's quite amazing. And if you do that, if you're watching the TV at night or something, you know, you're watching a film, and you sit there and you're deliberately doing it, you would find, or I've found, that it's actually loosened the phlegm on my chest, and it's made coughing things up easier. So there's a little tip with that one as well. Dressing, as I say, it can be quite difficult. It can take a long time. It takes me 10 minutes, quarter of an hour to get dressed in the morning. And all you can really do when you get to the very severe stage is to sit on the bed, take an article of clothing on, put an article of clothing on, take one off, put one on, and just have a little break again. But each time I find, say you're putting a pair of trousers on, you just breathe in, and as you do that, put your leg in, and then breathe out, and then you breathe in, put a leg in, and then pursed lip breathing all the time. And then you may stand up and you pull your trousers up, doing it the same way, and sit down, and you carry on like this. This takes a while, but it is a successful way of doing it without too much stress. Another way is with the shower as well. Now I find the shower, especially with the bad bronchitis I've had this year, to be a great help, because the shower has a lot of humidity. Sometimes it's nice just to sit in the shower for 5 minutes, because the humidity itself will actually loosen everything off. I don't know if you find that, but I do find it's helpful. But then again, with the shower, you sit there, when you're ready, you go in, you turn the shower on, you go in there, and when you come out, I sit on the toilet and slowly dry myself, and if it's a particularly bad day, I'll even put a terry towel robe on and let that dry me as well. So, you know, the main thing is, don't be a couch potato. Now, the steam helps me, but also I have a stair lift. Now, don't be afraid of using a stair lift. A lot of physiotherapists say, oh, when you can't use the stairs, you're lost, but lots of people get bungalows. They have a bungalow instead of a house because it's so much easier. And to be honest, if I could afford a bungalow, then I would be in a bungalow too. Well, they don't have stairs, do they? And if we go into any buildings, we want a lift, don't we? We can't do the stairs. So don't be afraid of using a stair lift in the home. You can get second-hand stair lifts, so that's a tip. I always, nowadays, use a stair lift because that helps. Now, it's the same with a scooter. I've had physiotherapists say, well, you shouldn't use a scooter, you should try to walk. Well, you try it. You walk for 20 yards, get seriously out of breath, having to stop for 2 or 3 minutes, and then you might carry on for 2 or 3 minutes, or a minute, or whatever it happens to be. It's no fun. It's no fun being out of breath all the time. It's not enjoyable. And at the end of the day, it's quality of life we're looking for. And that is a way to get your quality of life. Use a scooter. Because with me, I can go out with Lynn. We go out in nice places. We go to Blackpool Promenade, Long Promenade, Porthcawl Promenade, Long Promenade, and we're going over to Dawlish later on this year. Long Promenade, no worry. I can go along on the scooter and she can go along alongside me. Something that would be impossible otherwise, and I would personally use an awful lot of oxygen. But having said that, if you're at a stage where you can actually do that, but you can do it slowly, your saturation levels are not going below 88, and you're not in too much discomfort, then do it, because it will help you. One thing that saved me from getting progressively worse as fast as what I might have done is the fact that I used to be very active in my work. I was always on the go. I never stopped. Okay, my life has changed now. It's much different. But even so, I have to be careful nowadays not to fall into this trap, as I said about earlier, of doing little. I have to keep moving, and it's very hard. Especially during the winter months at home. We're at home a lot in the winter months. We have to be at home a lot in the winter months. Quite many of us can't go out in the very cold weather. It's been very cold a lot of the time here. Not snowy weather, but about 4 or 5 degrees, which is about 41 degrees in Fahrenheit, and a lot of wind and an awful lot of rain and floods and everything everywhere. Impossible to go anywhere. So I've had to stay at home. And there, it does help to have a hobby. Find something to do indoors. And, you know, just don't be isolated. Anyway, we're going to get on to another subject now. A very serious problem now, and this is the coronavirus. And I did speak about it in my last blog. It is spreading, and we're having to be careful. Now, how do I see this? I've been asked, how do I see it? How am I going to handle the coronavirus? Now, many of us are at very serious risk, me included. I doubt if I would survive coronavirus. I don't know. I just got my doubts. And many of us have at the very severe. If you're less than that, you may be okay. But it's mainly the viral pneumonia that goes along with it that causes the problem. So we've got to try and avoid this. But every year I am always avoiding flu. Now, I have the flu jab, everybody does, but there's always 1 or 2 flus around that the flu jab does not cover. And there's all sorts of other bugs going around, the Nova virus, cold bugs, everything going around, and we're always on the lookout for them, and we're always avoiding them. And the vast majority of the time, in all the years I've had CRPD, I've managed to avoid catching these bugs. And that is by taking very simple precautions. Now, when you go out, doors, great, if you grab them with your hands, then they could have a virus on them, especially if you're going into a surgery or something like that. So when you've touched something, make sure that you wash your hands, give them a good wash, or you somehow have some of this antibacterial stuff on you, and avoid touching your mouth. Now, it's not as easy as said, because you can touch your mouth without even realising it. You know, I've done that, you know, no end of times. So just be aware of it and try not to touch your face. The face masks, I don't really go along with them personally. I think they probably cause more problems than what they solve. Yes, if you were actually face to face with somebody that had coronavirus, it may stop some of the droplets that they sneezed or coughed coming towards you. If you had coronavirus, it would stop you putting it out to other people. But in general, I don't go along with them, because you put them on, they get damp inside. In actual fact, because they get damp inside, may harbour germs. And anyway, you get germs on the outside, you take them off like that, and then you may touch your face, and what's it done? It's done nothing for you at all. Home isolation, well, I have all winter indoors, you know, mainly because of the weather and everything else. And I am going to go out, but I am going to take precautions. You know, I'm not going to handshake. I'm not going to give hugs. I'll give smiles instead, things like that. Or I might give the old shoulder thing they're doing. I think the thing, I expect you've seen it where they touch feet. That's quite funny, isn't it, you know? Could go for that one. But, you know, we are just got to change our habits. I'm also going to make sure that I don't sit next to people, but that's not hard for me. I've got a scooter. I can just sit on the scooter if I go into a restaurant or a cafe or anything like that. I can just take that in with me. Although, normally with a restaurant, I manage to slowly walk into it. But you just got to go careful all the time. Don't avoid crowds. I've cancelled my breathe easy meetings for the next couple of months to see what happens, and I'm also avoiding other meetings that are unnecessary, and I do quite a lot of those, but they will all be put on the burner for now until we see how it goes with this, because the risk is just far too great. So you've got to watch it. You don't need to isolate yourself all the time. I'm going to go out. I mean, they say that, you know, I've noticed in a lot of places that these tourist spots are very empty at the moment. There's hardly any people there. The price of fuel is going down because nobody is travelling. The roads are becoming quiet because people don't want to travel. They reckon airlines now are stopping a lot of flights, and cruises are obviously coming to a stop. The world is changing at the moment, but that's, as you might be for the good for us with CRPD, because you can go, as long as you've got a car, you can go out in your car, and you can go to different places. You can keep away from people like me, have a camera, take some nice pictures, or you could take your own sandwiches and eat your own sandwiches, that's lovely, or take a flask with you where you're eating yourself and you're avoiding cafes and you're sitting with other people as well. There's lots and lots of things you can do, but don't isolate yourself completely unless it's absolutely necessary, because it's no life, you know. We've got to live, you know, and what can I say about that? Anyway, that's it for now. There's nothing I can say more than that. So there you go. Avoid groups. Go out and enjoy yourself where possible. Take as many precautions as you can. Make sure that you move. Make sure you get those lungs moving, whatever you do. And most of all, smile. And if you've got any comments to make some comments. If you've got any suggestions in what you would like me to talk about, I'm always up for suggestions. So bye-bye for now from South Wales, and have a good day. Smile, everyone, because everybody loves a smiler. Bye-bye for now.